Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. We have a lot to cover, as we always do. The Democratic Socialist running for mayor of New York City says that if Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu were to set foot in the Big Apple, the city should arrest him. Also in New York, more news from the recently indicted Attorney General Letitia James. This gets better by the day. We have some special elections in the upstate of South Carolina next week, one of which is the race to fill the Senate District 12 seat that became vacant when Senator Roger Nutt resigned due to health issues. Hope Blackley is one of three candidates running in the GOP primary. She joins us in today's show as well. Last Friday, October the 10th, marked the deadline for candidates for governor in South Carolina to submit their third quarter fundraising totals to the South Carolina State Ethics Commission, which is, by the way, the agency which oversees campaign finance reporting in the Palmetto State. We have some of those numbers for you in today's show as well.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
The scandal surrounding New York's Attorney General Letitia James just keeps getting wilder by the day. Now, we already know James, the same Democrat prosecutor who spent years, literally years, going after Donald Trump. When he was president, when he wasn't president, now when he's president again. She was recently indicted by a federal grand jury in Virginia over allegations that she lied on mortgage documents about a Norfolk home. Now, we didn't have a whole lot of details about that home, but she claimed that it was her primary residence. Of course, she's the Attorney General of New York, so how could that be? Well, now it turns out part of that case centers on her fugitive grandniece, a woman named Nakia Thompson, who, as of this week, is wanted in North Carolina and apparently has plenty of time to post on Facebook about how she's doing just fine. Really. I mean, I'm not kidding. She's wanted by law enforcement. She's living in New York Attorney General's house, and she's boasting online that her criminal record is old as hell. That's a quote. You can't make this stuff up. Now, here's what we know. According to the court documents and reporting from the New York Post, Nakia Thompson, she's 36 years old, has a criminal history dating back nearly 2 decades. She's been charged with everything from assaulting police officers to felony larceny. And in 2019, she was arrested and her kids were in the car for that very crime. She also racked up multiple traffic violations, including 4 in a single day, one of which was for speeding 80 miles per hour in a 55 zone. And yet this week, when her name started making national headlines, what did she do? She jumped on Facebook and posted this gem. Here's what she said. For all inquiring minds, no, I'm not in trouble. Haven't been in years at all. And she didn't stop there. She went on to say, I'm very much an active mother to my children every day, work every day, and very much in college and about to graduate with my BA in sociology and a minor in criminal justice. Well, she may need that minor in criminal justice pretty soon. Criminal justice? Like I said, you can't make this stuff up, folks. Now, she's conveniently left out the fact that she currently is listed as an absconder in North Carolina. That means she's on the run from probation. The North Carolina Department of Corrections says that she willfully avoided supervision after being sentenced for assault and battery and trespassing, and that she's found, if she's found in the state, she'll be arrested on the spot. Since her offenses are considered non-extraditable, she's apparently decided to just live out of the state. And as it turns out, she's been living in one of her auntie's Letitia James homes in Norfolk, Virginia. Now, why does that matter? Because that's exactly the property at the center of the federal indictment against Attorney General Letitia James. Here's the deal. Prosecutors say that Miss James bought that Norfolk house years ago, claimed on her mortgage paperwork that it was a second home where she herself would be the primary residence. That allowed her to get a better mortgage rate, and that's some of the exact same things that she accused Donald Trump of. According to prosecutors, though, Miss James hasn't lived there in years. Instead, her grandniece, Nakia Thompson, has been living there rent-free with her 3 kids since 2020. Now, that's okay. If Auntie Letitia wants her niece to live in her home, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But the fact that she's been claiming that it's her primary residence, that's where the problem is. The fact that she put that as her primary residence on her mortgage application, that's where the problem is. Now, you or I couldn't get away with this. The mortgage application required James to affirm that the home was for her personal use, not a rental property. And here's where the story gets even crazier. Ms. Thompson admitted to the New York Times that she didn't pay rent while living there. No, Auntie didn't charge her rent. That admission completely undermines Attorney General James's defense that she wasn't collecting income from the home. So let's just recap this for a second, okay? Here's what we got. The top law enforcement officer in the state of New York, a woman who has built her political career on prosecuting Donald Trump for alleged financial misstatements with his business properties, is now facing her own criminal charges for making false statements on mortgage documents. And the key witness, or maybe we should say accomplice, in this case, is her fugitive grandniece who's wanted in another state, bragging on Facebook that she's not in trouble and calling herself a walking testimony. Let me repeat myself. You can't make it up, folks. Let's take a closer look at what this Nakia actually wrote on her post. Always focusing on the negativity, she said. She said, blaming gossipers for dredging up her past. And then she added, I walk with my head held high because I know I worked hard to get to where I am. Yeah, sure you did. Living in Auntie's house. Now, I don't know where exactly she is or where she would be, because according to the North Carolina court system, where she should be is under supervision by a probation officer. But again, this is someone living in a house owned by the New York Attorney General, a public official who's now under federal indictment, and the entire situation reads like a bad episode of Law and Order. So here's what's at stake for Letitia James. Federal prosecutors are looking into whether she lied on her mortgage application, falsely claiming the Norfolk property was her personal residence. If that's proven true, that's bank fraud. That's a felony. There's also examining whether she illegally collected rental income while telling the bank she wasn't renting it out. The case hinges on whether Nakia Thompson, her grandniece, this fugitive grandniece, paid rent. James says she didn't. Thompson also says she didn't. But prosecutors argue that even allowing someone else to live there violates the terms of her mortgage declaration. And that's the case. Because it doesn't matter if she collected rent or not, she still claimed that this was her residence, and she's not even living there. And again, the only reason she claimed that was to get a better interest rate. And again, these are some of the same charges that she claimed the Trumps were doing to get better interest rates on some of their business deals. Now, get this. On Nakia's Facebook page, there's a picture of her posing proudly with a Tish James for Attorney General campaign sign. She's literally showing off her connection to her famous aunt, the same aunt who's now claiming that she barely knows what's going on in that house. Now, tell me this. If this were a Republican, CNN, MSNBC would be in full meltdown mode right now, would they not? Instead, the same media that spent years covering every inch of Donald Trump's legal battles is suddenly very quiet. I mean, you tell me, have you seen it? Have you seen any of this story being reported by any of the major networks? I mean, when it comes to Letitia James's indictment or her fugitive family members, crickets, nothing. Nothing is being mentioned at all. Now, let's just be honest here. This whole saga is a microcosm of the two-tier justice system that we've been talking about for years. If you're a conservative, or heaven forbid, your last name is Trump, you get investigated, you get raided, you get indicted, smeared on national TV. But if you're a Democrat with the right political connections, you get the benefit of the doubt. And in Letitia James's case, even your fugitive relatives get to live in your property, avoid extradition, and brag on Facebook that they're a walking testimony, that there's nothing going wrong in their life whatsoever. What is wrong with this picture? Okay, I know I've been kind of on New York today as I was talking about Attorney General Letitia James earlier, but you just can't overlook some of this stuff. Now the Democrat Socialists running for mayor of New York, get this, says that if Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu were to set foot in the Big Apple, that the city should arrest him. Arrest him. Now, this is according to Zohran Mamdani, the far-left state legislator from Queens, who's now running for mayor of America's largest city. And look, it looks like he has a pretty good shot of winning. In fact, the Democrat Party and the Republicans are running scared that he will win. He said during an interview on Fox News this week that New York should honor an arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court, or ICC, against Netanyahu, the same ICC warrant that the United States doesn't even recognize. Let's just take a breath here. This is the same ICC that once threatened to investigate American soldiers for war crimes in Afghanistan. Nobody takes it seriously. The U.S. isn't even a party to that court, and now this New York City mayoral candidate wants to get headlines and wants to turn Manhattan into a holding cell for America's closest ally in the Middle East. What is wrong with this picture? And what's wrong with this guy? What's wrong with him? Mamdani, he went on Fox News, the story with Martha McCallum. When she pressed him, the United States doesn't stand by the International Criminal Court. She doubled down. He said, and this is a quote, "This is a city that believes in international law. This is a city that wants to uplift and uphold those beliefs." Here, listen to the exchange yourself.
You have said that you would arrest Netanyahu if he came to the United States. You've been very outspoken in your criticism of him. Do you stand by that? You would arrest him if he came here, if you were mayor?
I've said that this is a city that believes in international law, and this is a city that wants to uplift and uphold those beliefs. The Prime Minister...
The United States doesn't stand by the International Criminal Court.
It hasn't signed the treaty for the International Criminal Court. The International Criminal Court, however, has issued a warrant for the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu.
But what grounds in the United States could you arrest him on?
As it has for Vladimir Putin. I've said that I believe that we should uphold arrest warrants by the International Criminal Court, and that we should do so only in abiding with all of the laws in front of us. I'm not going to make a new law to ensure that we can actually do this.
Do you think that Commissioner Tisch would allow you to arrest Netanyahu in New York City?
I've appreciated Commissioner Tisch's leadership of the NYPD, and I think that she's done a good job at lowering crime across the city.
But do you think that she would go along with arresting Netanyahu in New York?
I can tell you that I'm going to exhaust every legal option in front of me, not to make new laws to do so.
Really? Now, the last time I checked, New York's having trouble even upholding its own laws. The subways aren't safe. Small businesses are shuttering because of theft and vandalism. Illegal immigrants are being put up in luxury hotels on our dime, although that's coming to a screeching halt. That is starting to slow down considerably since the new sheriff came into the Oval Office. But by all means, let's make arresting the Prime Minister of Israel the city's next priority, because the city of New York is in such good shape. Let's just send the world a message that if Benjamin Netanyahu, whom was just very instrumental in this peace deal, if he comes to New York, maybe for a UN meeting, we're going to put him behind bars. Mamdani went on to compare Netanyahu's case to Russian dictator Putin, saying that the ICC had issued arrest warrants for both, as if the leader of the world's only Jewish state belongs in the same category as a war criminal who invaded Ukraine. Tell me, is there not a difference here? Here's what he said about that. I believe we should uphold arrest warrants by the International Criminal Court and that we should do so in abiding with all of the laws in front of us. Now, here's where things got even more absurd. McCallum asked him whether the NYPD specifically, as you heard, Commissioner Tisch, would actually go through with an arrest if Netanyahu landed in New York. Can you imagine that phone call? Can you imagine how that would sound? This lunatic mayor calls the NYPD commissioner and says, hey, I want you to run down, take some of you guys down to the UN. The prime minister of Israel is there. I want you to arrest him. By the way, and I just thought of this, doesn't international diplomats, don't they have immunity, period? Don't they have immunity from arrest, whether it's the state or the federal? I mean, when you're in New York City, and I'm there some, you see the diplomatic tags. They can park anywhere they want. And quite often, you'll see a car with diplomatic tags literally blocking traffic, and there's nothing NYPD can do about it. So how's he think they're going to arrest him because this crazy mayor just wants to make headlines? I mean, let's be honest, folks. This isn't about the law. This is about his socialist ideology. Zohran Mamdani represents that new breed of far-left politicians who see everything through the lens of intersectionality and anti-Israel activism. He's been one of the loudest pro-Palestinian voices in New York politics, and he's repeatedly refused to condemn Hamas by name. He will not condemn the terrorists of Hamas. In fact, when Martha McCallum asked him point blank whether Hamas should lay down their arms, he dodged the question entirely, saying, I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel beyond the question of justice and safety. Anything has to be abide by international law. So he doesn't have an opinion about a group of terrorists who's been holding hostages for 2 years. He doesn't have an opinion on them and how they should be treated and whether or not they should put down their arms after they agreed to do so. He won't criticize terrorists who butcher civilians, but he'll call for the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu. That tells you everything you need to know about where his priorities are and about his beliefs. And remember, again, this is just days after President Trump's historic peace deal between Israel and Hamas that ended 2 years of brutal warfare in Gaza. That agreement, which Trump brokered personally, led to the release of the hostages, to the withdrawal of troops and a framework for rebuilding Gaza under international supervision. World leaders from Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they praised it. Even Hamas agreed to disarm under the terms. Now, yes, they're looking as if they're going to back out of that. But when McCallum asked Mamdani if he'd give President Trump any credit for ending the war, he couldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. He says it's too early to say. Why is it too early to say? It's real clear. He said if it proves to be lasting, then maybe you give him credit. He got the hostages back. Can we give him credit for that at least? I mean, this is what happens when politics trumps principle, no pun intended. When someone like Zohran Mamdani would rather play to the activist base than acknowledge that a peace deal actually saved lives and that these poor hostages were returned to their families, and he won't give President Trump credit for that, that in itself should be reason that he should never be elected mayor of New York City. Next year's Republican primary for governor is literally months away. It's in June of 2026. But as you know, we have a lot of candidates who are out there on the campaign trails already. We have, let's go through them. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott, Attorney General Alan Wilson, Congressman Ralph Norman, Congressman Nancy Mace, and South Carolina Senator Josh Kimbrell. Five candidates running in the GOP primary. And, of course, it takes money to run these elections. South Carolina's four major candidates, and I say that, and I'm reading from an article on Fitz News that Will Folks wrote. And he really didn't pay a lot of reference to Senator Josh Kimbrell. I don't know. I haven't seen any of the numbers there, so I'm assuming that there's not much to be told there. But he did focus on what he calls the four major gubernatorial candidates, And he says they've worked incredibly hard to raise funds for their campaigns over the past 3 months. He says now they're working every bit as hard to spend the numbers associated with those contributions. He says they're hoping to convince voters that they have the momentum in the race to become the Palmetto State's next chief executive officer. So last Friday, October the 10th, marked the deadline for candidates to submit their third quarter fundraising totals to the South Carolina State Ethics Commission. This is the agency which oversees campaign finance reporting in the Palmetto State. The third quarter covers contributions each campaign received between July the 1st of 2025 and September 30th. So, who's winning the 2026 money race? Because we're a long way from actually having ballots cast. According to Will Folks, that depends on whom you ask and which metric you're considering. He writes, the Republican gubernatorial primary features 4 main contenders at this point, and he goes through them: Nancy Mace, Alan Wilson, Pamela Evette, Congressman Ralph Norman. Each candidate boasted an impressive haul during the third quarter, he writes, although there are big differences in how they arrived at their totals, how much money they spent, and how much money they have in the bank as this campaign heats up. Fitz News goes on to say, we'll start with Mace. She reported raising $1.1 million during the first 2 months as a candidate. After spending just over $350,000, Mace has a total of about $720,000 in the bank as of October the 1st. Reporter Nick Reynolds of the Post and Courier slammed Mace's haul, noting that only 8% of her donors were from South Carolina. Interesting. This was by far the lowest percentage of any candidate. Now, you tell me, who wants a governor in South Carolina to have been supported by people all around the rest of the country and not here in the Palmetto State? It kind of tells you who would be pulling her strings. Again, it's early in the game. Mace pushed back at the Post and Courier's criticism, saying she received 1,590 contributions from Palmetto State residents, which was more than the 1,219 total South Carolina contributions received by Wilson, Evette, and Norman combined, she said. And she makes a point there as well. On X, she wrote, since you can't help but prove your left-wing bias and can't add, let me do the math for you. 8% of 20,000 donations is more than triple the donors from South Carolina as of all of my opponents. My total number of donations for South Carolina is more than all my components combined and then some. Okay, all right. She added that her campaign had 12 times the number of donations as all of her opponents combined again, and 7.5 times as many individual donors as all of her opponents combined again. She's good at math. Now, Attorney General Alan Wilson reported raising an impressive $1.3 million, including approximately $260,000 in transfers from his Attorney General campaign account, which is about 22% of the total. After spending just over $214,000, Attorney General Wilson has $1.1 million in the bank as of October the 1st. Now, Will Folks says, as we previously reported, and this is his writing, the little-known number 2 to South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster launched a major advertising push over the past 6 weeks in an attempt to boost her profile in the race. Folks goes on to write, the spending binge, as he put it, seems to have worked. He says, but there was a significant cost associated with the effort. Evette spent a whopping $888,000 during the recent quarter, more than Mace, more than Wilson, more than Norman combined, after raising just over $1 million. She also loaned her candidacy $300,000, according to Fitz News. She had $528,000 on hand as of October the 1st, the lowest total of the 4 major contenders so far. Again, it's so early in the game. Campaigns generally devote the months prior to an election year raising and saving as much money as possible and then spending that money in the months leading up to the partisan primary elections in early June. And this is the interesting thing for me, is that these candidates are already raising so much money and spending so much money. Folks ask the question, can Pamela Evette sustain such a high burn rate over the coming quarters? And if not, will she dip further into her personal wealth to finance her political aspirations? That's a question. It's a valid question. Now, Congressman Norman, he's independently wealthy. He's a developer. He, too, according to Fitz News, loaned his campaign $500,000 to be precise, along with the $808,000 he collected from donors. The Freedom Caucus firebrand, Will Folks' terminology, not mine, raised more than $1.3 million during the third quarter, matching Wilson for the biggest haul of any contender. He says the best news for Norman, he spent just $187,000, the lowest of any contender. That left him with $1.1 million in the bank, also matching Wilson for the highest total of any candidate. Like Evatt, Norman has the potential to self-fund his candidacy, Fitz News writes, although it remains to be seen whether the notoriously frugal businessman will spend any of his money that he has loaned his campaign, or if he will commit additional resources to the effort should such an investment prove necessary. And that is the big question when you have someone like a Ralph Norman, like a Pamela Evatt, who does have that personal wealth. Are they willing to spend it on their campaign? Now, if they ask me, little advice here, don't spend your own money on a campaign. It's quite often not going to turn out too good. Now, Fifth News says an important note to consider. These filings represent only finances linked to the official campaign organizations of each campaign, and this is very important. There are multiple political action committees who are spending even bigger bucks in support of or opposition to the candidates that they support. That money is harder to track. In fact, it's almost impossible to track, and that's one of the problems with our whole campaign finance law. You can have this dark money from these PACs. We have no idea where it's coming from. We have no idea who's behind it. You can kind of figure out which candidate they're supporting, but sometimes not even that. Because quite often, they'll spend money opposing a candidate, trying to run their negatives up, but yet you don't know who they're doing it for. Filing for next spring's partisan primary, the GOP and the Democrat primary, it opens in March. The primaries are scheduled for June 9th of 2026. In the event no candidate wins a majority of the votes on the first ballot, which, quite honestly, probably not going to happen in this governor's race, a runoff election will be held 2 weeks later on June 23rd. Again, that's a long way off. Think about all the things we got to do between now and then. We have Halloween coming up. We have Thanksgiving coming up. We have Christmas coming up. We have New Year's coming up. We have Easter next spring before we ever even get to the point that people are seriously talking about and thinking about who the next governor might be. But yet, they're raising this money and spending this money. This is why I love politics and why it is so interesting to me. Love to hear from you. Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Next Tuesday, we have some special elections in the upstate, a House seat, and then, of course, voters in South Carolina Senate District 12 will be going to the polls to elect someone to fill the vacancy created when Senator Roger Nutt had to step down due to health issues. There are three candidates, Hope Blackley, Lee Bright, and Justin Bradley. And on our guest line today is Hope Blackley. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Well, I appreciate your time. And look, it's a busy time. I know that you're out there shaking hands. I'm sure you're knocking on a lot of doors and that type of thing. So I just wanted to spend a few times so that our listeners could get to know who Hope Blackwell is. So I want to start, Hope, with your elevator speech and just introduce yourself. Let us know why you think you would make a good state senator.
Okay, well, first I'll tell you, I'm Hope Blackley, and I was born and raised in Moore, South Carolina, graduate of District 6 schools, proud to be a Dorman graduate, and have worked with children and been a government employee for most of my career until I became an elected official. Never saw that coming. After an appointment by Governor Sanford, after coming back from working with his administration, he appointed me as clerk of court, and that took my career path on a different path, and have enjoyed it. Was able to really focus on being an elected official and doing some good things in Spartanburg as a clerk of court, and worked on a penny sales tax, which is one of my proudest moments in helping to get that referendum, passed, and for not just our courthouse, but a couple other government buildings, and now the citizens of Spartanburg County and surrounding counties and folks who visit will come into a safe and secure justice facility. Yeah. And so I am a grandmother of a 2-year-old grandson. We call him B. Ford, and I have a beautiful 25-year-old daughter.
Wow. Yeah. Well, without going into any detail, we're going to kind of dig a little deeper into some of the issues, Hope. What would you say are the 5 most pressing issues that you've heard from voters as you've been out knocking on doors and talking with people?
That is a great question, because they are giving their concerns and opinions. But the first one, first and foremost, is roads and bridges. Mm-hmm. That is of major concern. From what I've heard from the constituency. Education, more so in line with school choice, as well as taxes, maybe doing away with a zero tax base, but reducing taxes altogether, and for small businesses. So that's been a big deal. And violence. Mm-hmm. Violence, especially after what is taking place in the death of Charlie Kirk. I have been a big advocate for strong laws and making sure that criminals are sentenced proper sentences that justify what crime they've committed. But that's about 4. Those are about the main thing I've heard. And there's been talk of, which is more so federal, but we need to have lower prices.
Sure.
People can't afford to buy groceries. Of course, I listen to what they say, and anything that I can do as the next senator for District 12, I will do to try to help lower prices. But that's kind of more of a trickle down effect, and we'll be working on that. But that is what the constituency has said to me when I have been out knocking on doors and having conversations.
Sure. Hope Blackley is my guest today. She is one of 3 candidates running for the South Carolina Senate District 12 seat. If you haven't already voted early, or if you don't vote early, plan to vote next Tuesday, October the 21st. So, Hope, let's just drill down a moment then, and let's start with roads and infrastructure, bridges that you mentioned. For years, we have heard, give us another penny sales tax, and they take 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or more, and we still can't seem to take care of our roads. Tell us what the solution is.
Well, I can't say that I have the single most solution, but it will be something that I would look into it fully with access with my credentials of being a senator. But based on my research and what I've looked into and learned, is people are concerned about the priority list and what that looks like. I know there's funding there, and and nobody else wants there to be any more taxes. But at the end of the day, what is the priority, and how is that list made up for roads and bridges around that the state is taking care of, and how can a road that may be in worse shape than was previously reported kind of advance to the top? But that has been the biggest single thing that I think would be what needs to be looked into in regards to
Sure.
Roads and bridges and how we schedule those, and of course how we pay for those. But, because one of the other comments that have been made from the constituency and is being what some people feel triple tax, but a lot of verbiage to me or communication that came to me was, I think we're being double taxed. We got this penny sales tax, but then we also have in our property taxes, and then of course when we go pay for gas, and the most important thing for me is making sure that the people that I speak with have the proper facts, and I don't claim to know everything, but the most important thing is learning the lay of the land, and then and seeing what changes can be made in regards to how we get our roads paved and keeping them up, and
Sure.
not having that burden fall on the taxpayer.
Sure. One of the other topics you mentioned was violence, judicial reform. Judicial reform has been a big issue recently as we hear about judges allowing violent criminals to be released only to commit more crime, and in some cases even murdering innocent victims. What changes would you like to see as far as how we select our judges, how we hold them accountable, and that the right people are put into those positions?
Yes, well, I don't know if you know this, Joey, but I was on the Judicial Merit Selection Commission. I was the only non-attorney on that commission, and so I got to work with lawyer legislators as well as other lawyers on that commission to screen and advance candidates. And I can tell you, a lot of people complain, and what I experienced is, these attorneys actually get to go in front of the people that they're screening. So, a lot of people felt like that's the fox guarding the hen house, and having actual hands-on experience watching that, I can tell you that at times there were some concerning moments where I am listening, and I can't go into detail, especially things from executive session, but sure. There was some concern that came to me as the only non-attorney, where comments were made about an entity on that commission who had been in front of this particular judge, and and for me, I made sure that they understand that it was inappropriate, and this is what we need to keep the focus on. But I am an advocate and have been an advocate of changing that process. I think, one, there needs to be term limits on whomever serves on that commission, but also allow the governor to appoint those folks and have them be confirmed by the Senate would be a different way. But I think the most important thing is not having someone on that commission, regardless if they're attorney or not, long term for years. And I am a big advocate of sentencing reform and actually term limits. Sure. And so I think that's important for such a high powerful commission sure. as the Judicial Merit Selection Commission. But in regards to your question about holding criminals accountable, especially when judges are giving bonds and then they're being released, and having been the former clerk of court and understanding that everyone is entitled to a reasonable bond, but that I never in my day would think that would be contributed to a repeated violent offender. And I have seen that over and over again as a clerk, and would be just dismayed at the fact that this particular person, after they've read their rap sheet, is getting yet another bond and being released. And, the excuse has been, even when I question it, was, our jails are full and they deserve a reasonable bond. But this person got back out and created or committed a different violent offense. Sure. It may have not been murder, but like that has got to be looked into, and the excuse or the lack of resources for not being able to hold or house such individuals is something that we're just going to have to look into, because there's just too many violent repeat offenders walking around, and when the judges don't follow the laws that I hope that I'll be making to put more restrictions on, then they're held accountable for that.
Sure. Hope, a couple more quick questions. We're almost out of time here, so if I could ask you pretty much a yes or no. Are you in favor of legalized gambling in South Carolina?
I am not.
I'm not. Okay. And what about closing primaries? Should we be registering by party?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Hope Blackley, a candidate for the State Senate District 12. What's your website if someone would like additional information?
www.votehopeblackly.com.
VoteHopeBlackley.com. Hope, appreciate your time. Good luck to you on Election Day. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.